Good afternoon, everybody. This is Nick Rudolph. I'm the Baltimore Regional Director with Maryland Capital Enterprises, and we are here today to talk about the first steps for starting your own business. Now, we just have a few folks on today, so if you've got questions, just feel free to take yourself off mute and ask as I am talking. I do not mind being interrupted. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about what MCE is, a little bit about the first steps to starting your own businesses, the hows, the whys, the whats, the whos, and then we'll talk about your business plan, your cash flows, and how you can access capital to start and grow your business. So we'll go ahead and get started. Again, this is Nick Rudolph, the Baltimore Regional Director with Maryland Capital Enterprises. So, what is MCE? Well, we are a nonprofit. We are what's called a Community Development Financial Institution, a CDFI. A lot of people think that as a nonprofit bank, and we're a little bit of that, but really what we're here to do is to serve small business owners across the Eastern Shore and the Baltimore region at any state they are in their business. So we are able to help you develop your plans and cash flows, figure out exactly what kind of business you want to go into, or if you're already existing, we can help you expand, get ready to hire employees, all that kind of fun stuff. We also offer more webinars. I encourage you to go to marylandcapital.org to find out about those. But history-wise, we started in 1998, so almost 30 years ago. We were given $500 loans out of a convent on the Lower Eastern Shore. We grew and grew. We became an SBA lender. In 2012, we crossed the bridge to the Western Shore and opened up a Baltimore office. And then in 2020, we became a certified SBA Women's Business Center. So in addition to all that free counseling, yes, all the counseling is free, we offer access to capital. We are a micro lender that is certified by the SBA, but we get funds from all over the place, from the casinos in Maryland, from other federal agencies, even some private places will give and lend us some funds to lend. What that is in classes, 5 one-on-ones with a consultant to learn about how to grow and expand your business, how to bring on employees and make sure that you're getting the most out of them and they're getting the most out of the job. Then at the end of the program, which will be sometime in August, there will be a pitch competition for participants. There will only be 10 participants, and so you got a 1 in 3 chance of winning a pretty significant amount of money. So I encourage you to just stop on by. You don't need to RSVP. You'll get to meet me. You'll get to meet Adrian Somerville, who's our amazing consultant who's going to be running the program. So just a little pitch for our pitch competition there. So let's get started. Let's talk about the first steps you need to start your small business. Well, the first question is why? Why would somebody want to start a small business? Well, of course, income, right? Businesses make money, but really it's more about passion. You've got a special talent or interest or something like that that you want to get out into the world in a way that you can make some money to move the hobby into a career. You get to work, flexible hours, once your business is established, because believe me, as you're starting your business, you're not going to have a lot of flex time. You're your own boss, and it can help you get a second, third, fourth career. But it's not the easiest thing in the world. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of planning. Some of that's pretty boring, and it takes creativity. So I like to look at a small business like they look at a building. You go to downtown Baltimore, you'll see a fence around an empty lot with a picture of a skyscraper on it. And for 18 months, you won't see much going on there. And then all of a sudden, in about 6 months, it all goes up and is open. Well, during those 18 months, they're doing all the studies, the feasibility studies, the environmental studies. They're making sure the ground is strong enough to hold the building. They're building a foundation. When you spend all that time building a strong foundation, there's a much better chance that your building is going to stay up. Same thing with your small business. So the time to start planning your business is well before you want to open it. But even if you jump the gun, we can still help you out. So this is what I like to call Mr. Scary Slide, where we talk about 80% of all businesses closing within the first 10 years. Well, that is true, but it's a little bit misleading. Businesses close for all kinds of reasons. Sometimes people start a business, at the end of their career and they retire. Successful restaurant owners often close their restaurants to open up a new concept. Sometimes businesses sell to other folks. So really the numbers aren't quite that bad, but anytime you're opening up a business, you're taking a risk. Usually the risk is worth it, but it is indeed risky. So I'm not going to just sit here and read 20 questions to you, but really what you want to think about with these is, why are you starting your business? What are you going to be doing? Who is your target customer? And that can't just be anyone. You want to talk about the folks that you're going to focus on to get your business growing. You want to talk about, are you prepared to spend the time and the money? Do you have, family needs that might make it more difficult to start a business? You also want to think about where you're going to be located. Do you need a brick and mortar or can you be home based? Are you selling online? Are you selling things? Do you need wholesalers? If so, where are you going to get them? And then also, how are you going to get the money to get it started? Can you get a loan? What does it take to get a loan? You want to think about who your competition is. And no matter how unique your business is, there is competition. And if you think you don't have any, you're setting yourself up for failure. So you want to really understand regionally, locally, and nationally who your competitors are. You want to talk about your pricing. You want to figure out your taxes, your insurance, and everything you need to legally set up the business. Now you take those 20 questions, you can distill them into the 10 steps to start your own business. These are numbered, but they're not necessarily in order of timeline or importance. They're just all very important. The first thing y'all are already doing, and that is getting help and assistance and training. Pardon me. There is nowhere in the country that has more small business resources than the Baltimore, Maryland, Virginia area. And the reason why is because we're so close to DC. There are tons of organizations offering free services to help you grow your business. Talk to all of us. We all have different experiences. You might want to talk to for-profit banks and nonprofits. Get both sides. Take advantage of everything. We're all here to answer your questions, and none of us get offended when you talk to other folks. Write a business plan, right? So you need to actually sit down and write this document. We're going to go over it and why it's important in just a little bit. You need to understand your responsibilities if you're going to be an employer. There are all kinds of taxes and insurances you need to get. Choose your business location. Even if you're not a brick and mortar, where you register might get you opportunities for different tax breaks or access to customers. So really do your homework there. Figure out your legal structure. An LLC might be a little bit more complicated, but it takes some of the risk off of you as a person. An S Corp means the business, is you. But it might make sense for you, and each business is individual and different, and we can help you figure that out for yourself. You need to register your business name. And when you register your business, you want to think, am I going to be opening up a number of businesses, right? Do I want to open up Nick's Corporation with Nick's Dill Pickles as a doing business as so I can have different businesses? Or is Nick's Dill Pickles just going to be the only business I own and that'll be the name of the corporation? You need to register for state and local taxes. You need to let the IRS know about you so you can get your employee number. You want to obtain all your business license and permits. Every city, state, and county is going to have different things, so talk to all of them. You want to figure out how to finance your business. We'll be talking about that in a minute. And you want to develop a marketing plan, which can be part of your business plan. Before I move forward, are there any questions right now? Okay. So understanding the market. This is really important because this is going to help you reduce your risk, figure out if there's even room for you, figure out any trends or problems that are coming up, and you can get the data and citations that you need for your business plan to convince folks like us or banks that you're ready for a loan. So how do you get this information? It's pretty simple. Internet Google searches is often enough. What you're looking for are industry publications or financial publications talking about your industry growing. And that can be nationally, internationally, or locally. If there are industry publications or organizations, you can always talk to them. The census website is sometimes helpful, local chambers of commerce, and you really do want to think locally, regionally, and nationally. We had a person who had a comic book store. For her competitors, she said, we've got, these two local people that are within 10 miles of us and Amazon.com, because they understood that everything they sold could be bought on Amazon and they needed to look at them as a competitor. So there are a few advantages and disadvantages to owning your own business, and we like to just show those to you to be upfront and transparent. So the pros, you get to be your own boss. You own your business, the buck stops with you. You can't be fired. Your income is determined by your efforts often. So the more you work, the more you can get paid. You're doing something that you love or you care about, and you're helping other people get jobs. But especially at the beginning, there's going to be all kinds of long hours. You're going to, no matter what, take some financial risk, and you might have to go without income for, a year or two as you're growing your business. How are you going to afford to live? You might need additional training or education, be that free or paid. Probably aren't taking a vacation for a while. Probably not going to have a lot of time for yourself and self-care. And even though you are the boss, all of your customers are bosses. Heck, even your employees are bosses. Those are all people that you're going to need to answer to. Now, when we talk about funding resources for small businesses, we are talking about loans. There are very rarely grants available for small businesses right now. Currently, in these listed industries, there are some grants that are available through state and federal agencies. Also, if you are located in a historic downtown, a main street, oftentimes your city or county will have what's called facade improvement grants that will pay for a portion of your signage, windows, accessibility ramps, security cameras, lights, and things like that. So we're going to talk about the keys to success for your small business. First thing is, do you have the necessary skills, right? Are you passionate about something, but you've never done it? Well, how are you going to get the expertise that you need? So do you have education? Do you have experience? Or do you have a mentor who can help you out? You also want to think about any business management experience that you currently have. And think all the way back. I was a shift leader at Taco Bell in college. That is management. You want to think about, any type of experience that you have. You also want to make sure that you can effectively recognize, improvise, and solve problems. So, are you a problem solver? Are you a little bit of a detective? Do you feel comfortable with improvisation? And if not, what can you do to make yourself feel more comfortable? I've known folks who've just joined improv comedy groups so that they could think on their feet better, and it's definitely helped them out. And also, just remember, you can gain these skills with education or a mentor. So, a couple legal things when you're starting your business. You want to make sure you've got all of your requirements, all of your licenses. You need to have insurance, and then you need to have a bail team. And what your bail team is your banker, your accountant, your insurance, and your lawyer. So even if you haven't started your business yet and you're not even planning to start it for a year, go to your local banks, ask to talk to your business bankers, develop that relationship, even if you aren't opening an account yet. When you open it, they're going to be there for you. They're going to tell you about training that's available for you. If you're honest and transparent about any credit issues or anything that you have, they can help you mitigate those. Also remember, then they become your friend, and it's a lot harder for a friend to say no to you. An accountant, this doesn't mean that you need to have one on the payroll, but you need to know who that person is if you do need them. This is going to make sure that you're in compliance with state and federal laws, and so that you are in good standing, because you become ineligible for these services when you are not in good standing. An insurance agent. Every small business needs insurance. Get to know your insurance agent. Make sure they understand your business so they can let you know about products that might be able to either increase your coverage or save you money. And for a lawyer, again, you don't need to have a retainer, but get to know lawyers who work in small business in your area. Make sure they know who you are. Figure out what their pricing is so that you can save some money in case you need to talk to them. So we're now about to go into the development of a business plan, a little bit about how you do your cash flow projections. So before we get into these, numbers and reports, are there any questions? Nope. Okay. Well, we'll just keep on going. So let's talk about what a business plan is and what it should contain and why you should have one. So it is the blueprint for your business, but it's a lot more than that. It's a document that's going to help you as you're starting to grow your business. It's a step by step. It's going to let you know where you should be, where you thought you would be at this moment. Like I said, I managed a Taco Bell. I came from the restaurant industry. We like to say when things are super busy, you're in the weeds. And when you're starting a business, you're going to be in the weeds. And if you've got that business plan that you can open up and read and ground you to let you know what you should be doing next, it's going to make it a lot easier. When you're writing your business plan or editing it, you want to consider your audience as well. Think of it as a resume where you would change things around for different jobs to highlight different things. If you're looking for a loan from a for-profit bank, the fact that you hire from within the community and you give to lots of local charities is great, but what they care about is, are you going to be able to pay them back? If you're writing a grant, then they are going to care about how much of a part of your community you are, who you're hiring, things like that. So you'll change the order of your business plan based on who's going to be reading it. Now, a business plan, we like to break into 4 parts. And we'll go through each of those. It is important to understand that you telling your story might have to do it in a different way, and that's fine. As long as you're getting all of this information in your plan, you're probably good to go. So the first part is your executive summary. This is your elevator speech inside the document. The first thing you want to start off with is information and an ask. So my fake business, Nick's Dill Pickles, I can say, you open up, first sentence would be Nick's Dill Pickles is an LLC operating out of Baltimore, Maryland, owned by Nick Rudolph. We make and sell wholesale pickles for restaurants and individual use at farmers markets. We are seeking a loan of $15,000 to buy new pickling equipment and labels. If that's the beginning of your business plan, then the person reading it is going to know who you are and what you're looking for as they're reading the rest of the plan. Then in the executive summary, you want to talk about what inspired you to open this business. Are you opening an assisted living facility because you saw the way that people were treated in your community and you wanted to do something better? Have you been cutting hair at a salon for a while, renting a chair, and you're ready to open up your own business? Talk about that. Then talk about more detailed ask. And so what that means is, what exactly are you going to do with the money? How much of it is going to be spent on, each item? You're buying a truck, are you building out a space, things like that. The next section will most likely be your longest, and this is your marketing plan, and it is so much more than your advertising. So the first thing in this plan you're going to want to do is describe your industry, and you want to show that there is room for your business in the industry. This is where you're going to take those citations and say, according to Forbes magazine, the pickling business is expected to grow 25% over the next 4 years. So there's room for me to come in, and then show, cite the article. You then want to talk about your pricing policy. Are you going to be high end, middle of the road, or a value proposition? You also want to think about your competition and list 3 competitors. Talk about what they do well and how you will be able to compete with them in the future. Then you want to start talking about your marketing strategy. You want to talk about what your edge is, what your special sauce is, and then how you're going to market it. Don't just say social media. If you've got a social media as your plan, tell us how we're going to use it. If you're in a business that requires, networking or going to conferences, just let us know that. The next section is your organization and operations plan. So this is going to talk about, your legal form of the business, where it's going to be located. Will you be hiring employees? And if you are, how will you manage them? You're going to talk about, the days of the week that you'll be open, your hours, who's going to answer the phones when there are customer complaints, a contingency plan. What happens if you get sick for 3 months and you can't work? How will your business continue? a little bit about COVID, what happens if one of your employees or customers gets sick. And if you plan on selling the business eventually, go ahead and say that there. Then the financial plan. This is a lot simpler than most people think. If you're a startup, you want to talk about your startup costs. And if you know where your break-even point is, how many sales you need to make a month, you can talk about that as well. If you're an existing business, you can talk about, your profit and loss, your quarterly balance. And this is also a good time, all loans are personally guaranteed. So if you've got some credit issues, this is a good place to talk about your credit issues. We also do require a cash flow projection for loans, but I think it's good for any business, whether or not they have a loan to do them. And we'll talk about that in just a moment right now. So before I go on to the cash flows, are there any questions about the business plan? Nope. Okay. So what are cash flows and why do we need them? Well, they're basically going to show you the money going in and the money going. Like I said, between that profit and the cash flow. It's just good governance, and it shows you when you can start to take your owner's withdrawal and start making some money out of your business. So you will see here on the right of your screen a very scary spreadsheet for your cash flow. But the truth is, this is a living document. Not only will it not be 100% accurate, the majority of the cells won't be what you think they'll be, and that is okay. You want to be realistic and not too bullish, even if you know you will do better than your projections. We had a person who made handmade wedding invitations for $1,000 a wedding. It's a one-person shop. And they said, well, there's 10,000 weddings a year in Maryland, so I'll make $10 million a year. Well, we all know not everybody uses invitations. Not everybody's got $1,000 to spend on invitations. And one person can't do all that work. So we said, show us you can make your money doing 5 or 10 a month. And then if you do more, that's great. You want to break down your income streams as much as possible and your expenses as well. If you have a restaurant, you might want to break it out, dine-in, carry-out, or catering, or food, liquor, and merchandise. This will let you know how your different sections are doing, and you can make decisions, educated decisions, based on how that is. If I'm opening up a restaurant that I thought was going to be 70% food and 30% alcohol, and after 6 months I noticed that it's 50% food and 50% alcohol, I can ask myself, is this an issue where the food program is underperforming or the alcohol program is overperforming? And that can help me figure out where I want to invest my money as I grow my business. Same thing with your expenses. Break them down as much as you possibly can. And remember to think that most of these expenses are really investments in your business. Things like having an accountant, doing your marketing. Those are all very big investments for your business. You also want to think about whether or not your sales change month to month, right? If you're a landscaper, you're probably busier in the summer, spring, and fall than you are in the middle of winter. You want to include your loan as income and your loan payments as expenses. Most people forget to do that, but your loan is definitely income. If you've got financing somewhere else, you want to list that on here. The number one thing that we dislike is surprises. So if we pull your credit and we see that you've got this loan that you didn't tell us about, you are going to be in some deep trouble. So just be upfront and honest with us about that. And the other thing is, are you paying yourself? We are a nonprofit. We care about your quality of life. You need a house, you need clothes, you need food, and you need to have fun. So we want to make sure that there's enough there for you. We're moving through this pretty quick. So we're about to get into how the small business lending works. This is specific to Maryland Capital Enterprises, but it's not too different from most nonprofit CDFIs. So first, we've got our regular small business loans. If you are a startup, and in our world, a startup means if you're less than 2 full tax years old, you're eligible for up to $35,000. If you're older than that, you're eligible for up to $150,000 with a little bit of wiggle room to go up higher. The term is going to be between 1 and 10 years, depending on the size of the loan. $5,000 would probably be 2 years. 35 would probably be 4 or 5. 50 would probably be 6 or 7, and anything over 100 would definitely be 10. Our interest rates are currently set at 6 to 12%. Generally, these loans are going out at about 8% with a little bit of a fluctuation, but that's sort of where we've been for a good amount of time. We do require collateral for these loans. Of course, if it's the full amount of the loan, that's best, but we can be flexible with that. Real estate, automobiles are great collateral. We can use equipment purchased with a loan, but it is not as strong. We can get very flexible with collateral as well. These loans are personally guaranteed by anybody who owns 20% or more of the business. If you have a large ownership structure, then we'll just, where nobody owns 20%, we're going to want to see 3 or 4 folks personally guarantee the loan. When you apply, the application is $100 plus a $25 credit report fee per owner. That's paid up front, but then there are closing costs on the loan. It does change loan to loan, but generally a $50,000 loan will go out at just north of $48,000 because we take the closing costs out of the proceeds, so you don't need to bring a check to closing. We do automatic payments from your business account. If you know that you are unable to make a payment a week before the payment is due, let us know. We'll figure something out. We can go to interest only, we can defer, we can restructure loans. On the other side, if you're doing great, there is no penalty for prepayment. As long as your loan is 30 days old, you can always pay it off for exactly what the balance is. Anything that you pay more than your minimum is going to go straight to your principal. We're going to visit you twice a year. It could be in person or virtual. We're going to want to see your books. We're going to have some questions that we're going to ask you, and then we're going to let you know about any resources that we have that can help you grow your business. The big question that people often ask is, what can we use this money for, and is my business eligible? So most small businesses in Maryland are eligible. There are a few exceptions. Anything that's in that traditional sin industry, 100% alcohol, adult bookstores, things like that. Or if you are in real estate investment, we can't pay to purchase or rehab properties, but we can buy reusable equipment. We can buy all kinds of things like that. We are able to work with medical and recreational cannabis as well. You can use the loans for any type of business expense. It can be build out, furniture and equipment, salaries, supplies, marketing, all of that stuff. One exception is if you are a home-based business, we cannot pay your rent, your mortgage, or your utilities. We also have what is called our credit builder loan. These are for folks who either have poor or no credit, or just dipping their toes into entrepreneurship, or have an existing business with a small expense that needs to be turned around pretty quickly. Like I said, these go from $500 to $5,000. The terms are 1 to 2 years, and the interest rate is set at 9%. We don't have to take collateral, but we sure like it on this one. Everything else is the same except for much lower application and closing cost fees. This is a good opportunity to get your personal credit score up as you're growing your business. Oftentimes people graduate from this loan into a larger loan. So how do you get these funds? Again, each CDFI is going to be a little bit different. We have a committee of local volunteers who are, retired and current bankers and community and business leaders. They make the decisions based on, how clearly your business idea is. Do you have a thorough business plan? Do you have experience in the field or a mentor who can help you out? Is your cash flow realistic? How strong is your collateral? Reasonable credit. You see here, we don't have a minimum credit score. What we're looking for is what you've been doing in the last 12 to 24 months, looking at things like missed payments or credit usage and past due amounts. There are 2 disqualifiers. If you've had a bankruptcy discharged in the last 24 months, or if you have a tax debt without a payment plan, you cannot borrow from us. If you do not have a payment plan on those taxes, you can work with us while you're applying, and you can be working with the IRS at the same time. We just can't close the loan until that is set up. We're looking at the general economic conditions for the venture. Is this the right time to be opening this business in this place? Um, this is very important, when there's different economic times, or if you're opening up the seventh pizza place on a block, how are you going to compete? And then again, your ability to repay the loan. Can you get back into the workforce if your business is not successful? So the application documents, don't worry, this list isn't too bad. All of our forms are online. Sometimes folks have paper forms, so that's going to be different. First thing you do is you do our intake form. That is what's going to give us sort of a baseline of where you are. You'll be assigned a business counselor who is going to help you through this whole entire process. This is what is needed for us to do all this work for you for free. The second one is the actual business loan application. This is where you're going to be uploading all of these documents that you see listed below. It's a short description of your business, an ask for the money, talk about what you're going to do with it, and some very simple business information. On that, you're going to be asked for 3 business or education references. You're going to need to know their name, their phone number, and their actual address. The next thing is the personal information supplement. This is a simplified personal financial statement. On this, you're going to need to upload a photo of your driver's license. You're going to be talking about your assets and your liabilities, your employment, and your monthly expenses. On this one is going to ask you for 3 more references. These can be friends or family members. They're going to ask for the same information on those. We're going to want to see that business plan and those cash flow projections. They can either be one document or separate. If you've been open, we're going to want to see your last 2 years of profit and loss statements and your most quarterly balance sheet. We're going to want to see 2 years of business taxes, of course, if you've been open. But for everybody who owns 20% or more of a business, we're going to want to see 2 years of personal tax returns and 3 months of personal bank statements. If the business has a bank account, we're going to want to see 3 months of those corporate bank statements as well. We're going to need some kind of proof that the loan was turned down by another lender. That could mean that you talk to a business banker and they say, we just don't think that you're ready for this loan now, but perhaps Maryland Capital Enterprises could help you out. That's good enough. We're going to want so everything else here is optional, but great if you have it. Reference letters, those can either be from clients, from educators, from people that you worked with, from suppliers, anything like that. If you're in that situation where you're renting a chair and you're about to open up your own salon and you come to us with 40 letters from people who say, hey, I sit in her chair, and when she opens up her salon, I'm going to move over there, it's going to be a lot easier for us to get that loan approved. You also might want to send in other things like your resume, a lease or an LOI, estimates, invoices, contracts, licenses, marketing materials, websites, videos, anything that you have that's going to help tell your story. Again, not required, but is very, very helpful. And then what happens next? Well, we take applications to the first Friday of the month. We go through everything. We pull your credit. We'll talk to you about your business. We'll ask for any clarifying questions. And then we present during the 4th week of the month to the loan committee. At that meeting, they make a determination of whether you get the loan and what your interest rate and term will be. We do not partially fund loans. And this is for a very simple reason. If you tell me you need $50,000 to start your business, and I give you $25,000 to start your business, I'm setting you up for failure with $25,000 in debt. So you really, really, really want to make sure you're asking for exactly what you need. If you take half of what you need, you're setting yourself up for a lot of pain and suffering and a low chance of survival there. If you get that yes, you're going to be issued a commitment letter, and usually the loans are funded in 3 to 4 weeks. If you are using real estate as collateral, we will need to see an appraisal that is 12 months old or newer. So once you're approved, if you don't have that, you will need to get an appraisal. We can help you with that process as well. Before I move on, are there any questions about access to capital or any of our loans? Nope. Okay. So remember how I said at the beginning that there is really, really no better place in America to get small business resources. Well, here's a list of some of them. You got us. Most libraries will have a business center. Each county and often cities have economic development organizations that are part of the government. Almost every county has a chamber of commerce. That's a great small business association. The Maryland Department of Commerce would be the place that would know about most of your grants and tax incentives. The Small Business Development Center, you may hear it called the SBDC. It's a partnership of the SBA and the University of Maryland. Each county has their own counselors, free services that'll help you write your business plan, figure out your cash flows, all that great stuff. Of course, the SBA, one of their programs is called SCORE, the Senior Corps of Retired Executives. You can get a mentor who's done what you've done and it can help you walk you through the process. Lots of local universities have business centers, even for folks who didn't attend the university, places like Salisbury and Morgan State, for example. And then, of course, any local organizations. There's downtown partnerships, there's Main Streets, chambers, rotaries. Join as many of those as you can. Become a part of your community. So I'm going to wrap up here in just a few minutes, but these are one of the things I like to end with. These are 5 things to remember when you're applying for business capital. Number 1, keep your day job. Don't quit that job. We're going to want to know that you can pay it back. So, as you're building your business, if you've got income coming in, that's a good idea. You need an accountant, honestly, even if you are an accountant, because you are going to be in the weeds, you're going to miss filing deadlines, and you're going to get out of good standing. Do what you're doing now. Ask for help. Take advantage of all of these free resources that you have. This will help improve those chances that you will be successful. Keep your money in the bank. If you're going for a business loan, it's not the time to be buying houses and cars and opening up credit cards. This goes back to, can you pay it back? It's your debt to income ratio. We are going to look at your bank statement. So if you have a rich friend, don't ask them to give you $50,000 to make it look like you're rich. That's fraud. You'll go to jail. No business is an island. So I've mentioned this a few times. You want to be part of your community. Sponsor a local softball team. Give to local charities. Join your chamber, your chamber of commerce, your Rotary, your Main Streets. You want people go to small businesses because small businesses are part of their community. So you want to give them the feeling that you really are part of their community, and that's how you do it. Now, we are living in a time of some political strife, so charity giving can be somewhat difficult. I suggest things like, animals, children, food banks, veterans, things like that are great charities. If you walk into a bar, there's a reason why there's sports on, and not news. And that's because if they had Fox News or MSNBC on, they'd be turning away 50% of the people who walk in the door. Everybody's dollars spend the same, and really, unless you are political or have a political business, nobody should really know how you vote for as far as your customers go. We do have a lot of webinars coming up. Tomorrow, this is a great one. It's a one-on-one with our executive director. He has a lot of knowledge about small businesses. He's a small business owner himself. So it's just a great opportunity to talk to Maurice, one of the greatest people I know. We've got next week, I'm going to be teaching about much more detail about writing a business plan and doing cash flow projections. We will actually develop a cash flow during that program. Then we've got coming up in May, resources for veteran-owned small businesses. And then on the 7th, paid versus organic advertising on Facebook. We've got some more webinars coming up, throughout the summer as well. That always happens. So with that, I will end it and open it up. This is my contact information, also the contact for Miri, who's our Women's Business Center coordinator in Baltimore. If you are on the Eastern Shore, still feel free to contact me. I'll get you in touch with the right person. So we've got about 20 minutes left. Are there any questions? Nope. Okay. Well, it looks like you are going to have some time to, finish up your lunches on your own. I always think of my best questions when these things end. So if you come up with one, just feel free to email me. We will be able to get you the slides and the video to this if you need that. So, again, just go ahead and ask for that if you need it. And otherwise, I hope you all have a great rest of your day and good luck in growing your business.